Hello and welcome to another episode of Atomic Movie Reviews. For this episode, we're going to review Fight Club. The story of Fight Club, this guy, Tyler Durden, he wants to stop, modern industrial society, the way of life in industrialized nations. Like that's some goal of his because he thinks that way of life isn't fulfilling and people are depressed all the time and just struggling through to work every day, to get to work and work a job. And, he calls them slaves with white collars and stuff in the movie. And to try to, take down, modern industrial society, which is, his main goal, and bring people back to, a simpler form of, life, a more natural, simpler way of living. That his plan is to, you know, blow up with controlled demolition, all of the, buildings that are the headquarters of the major credit card companies, because he thinks that if, all those records of who owes what money on credit cards throughout the world, if that gets, erased and wiped out that information, he believes that that'll throw the world into chaos and industrialized nations will collapse like that. There'll be an economic collapse and we'll go back to a simpler, more natural way of life, at least for a while. I mean, that's his philosophy on the whole thing. And his way of, getting that to happen, of taking down, industrial society, developed worlds, his way of taking that down is to see he goes around starting lots of cults where he calls them fight clubs, and they revolve around guys fighting each other in fist fights as like a form of therapy and a sport combined. And he uses that as part of how the whole cult is set up, the whole cult fight clubs, that those cults. And he winds up by the end of the movie putting a whole lot of people in cults, and he has fight clubs huge, like everybody's in a fight club. And then he uses that power he has at that point to blow up the headquarters of all the major credit card companies. So he's but I mean, that's the story and everything. That's the plot of Fight Club. And in the end, he does take down the credit card companies, and that's where, it ends. The movie ends at that point. And I mean, if you want to talk about, what I got from the movie and what you'd probably get, I mean, the movie had a really big impact on a lot of people that saw it because the way they made that character, Tyler Durden, they tried to make him like super cool, like as cool as you could imagine, where he was chain smoking cigarettes, he smoked all the time, drank all the time, he cursed constantly, he used lots of slang when he talked, he was really tough, he's this tough guy. I mean, a lot of people, when they saw the movie, they really thought, this guy is that cool, this character, like the cool type, cool badass type. And he wound up getting, I mean, and the movie wound up, with a cult following, like a cult classic and all that. So it might not have been a big Hollywood blockbuster that had a huge budget, but it wound up that a lot of people that saw it, they really, really loved that movie. I mean, that's really like the big selling point that makes it, such a great movie. If if you can tell that the character's really, really cool like that, he's so cool. I mean, you start really like looking up to and idolizing this character, Tyler Durden, because he's so badass and cool. I mean, and that was the big selling point. That's where all the people, that's where this whole cult classic, cult following type thing comes from with the movie, from what I can tell. And I mean, if if you're a guy, especially because he's the type of guy character that's cool and badass, where guys would get all like they'd start looking up to him like, oh, this guy's the shit. But I mean, a lot of girls did like the movie too, but they thought it was a little too like gross and offensive. The girls, because they're not into like gross, offensive shit. And he was doing some gross, offensive shit. Tyler Durden, he was. But I mean, especially if you're a guy, if you're a girl too, be open-minded. Don't just get turned off by the gross shit sometimes he says and does, Tyler Durden. But especially if you're a guy, you want to have seen this movie because that character is really cool, and you'd really think it was a cool movie because of how cool this character comes off. You know, with all the cursing, the slang, being tough, drinking and smoking constantly. I mean, he comes off as that badass cool type so much, you know, so much the badass cool type. And I mean, honestly, I thought this was definitely one of my favorite movies for sure of all time. And if you're looking to watch a movie, I definitely, recommend this, especially if you're a guy. You might even like right away consider this after you first see it, your favorite movie of all time. So I mean, really, have seen this movie. If you can, I guess that's it. I mean, just click subscribe if you like my videos on my channel, and click like on as many as you can. I like getting those likes. It feels good. And this has been another episode of Atomic Movie Reviews. Peace out.